So now I'm learning to live in the now more. Like, okay, I know these are the things I need to do, but right now, what's the reality? I have food, I have this, I have my rent paid, I have all that paid. Everything is great. So relax. Like, we're good.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Foreign Gems. How are you doing today, Ola?
I am doing pretty good. It's been a very good and relaxed week for a change.
It's been relaxed?
Yeah, it's been pretty relaxed.
Why? What's different about this week?
No deadlines this week. Yeah, I've had deadlines like the last couple of months back
Yeah.
to back. So it's pretty good right now.
Things are calming down a little bit.
Oh yeah. What about you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. As you know, we've been just on a streak of summer-like weather, and that's
Yep.
always very good for my mood. I also spend a lot more time outside when the sun is also out. So I've been enjoying that a lot, a little bit too much actually. I need to find some sort of balance. You know, when the sun is out, you're like, I don't want to be in here. You
Yep.
just look for any excuse to not be productive.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been following that a little bit too much. So it's yeah, need to find some balance even in the summertime.
The entrepreneur life.
Yeah. Gotta stay motivated. Keep at it, even if there's other more fun things you could be
Yeah.
doing.
You don't want to get in trouble with your boss.
You really don't. You really don't. You don't want to get that stern talking to in the mirror, bro. Like, why? Why did you make this decision?
That's the hardest part of being an entrepreneur, though. Like
Yeah.
being your own boss, it's hard.
It is tough, man. But it teaches you a lot about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because like there's only you now, so you're
Yep.
not trying to fool anybody. The only person you could be fooling is yourself. So it's in your best interest for you to
Yeah.
come to terms with how you work and what your personality is like, and design a system that actually works for you.
That's a good point.
Yeah, but I like it. I've been enjoying the journey so far. We'll see how things go. I think I promised an update episode, but
Yeah.
not yet. At some point, I think it'll be a good idea. To
The
dive into
listeners
it.
have been enjoying our stories besides the main topic, by the way. So they like the tangents. That's what I've been told.
You're getting feedback that
Yeah,
like
on the
tangents.
tangents. So
Man, I was editing a previous episode, and I was
Yeah.
like, man, we sometimes go on these story rants for a while. I don't know if people are enjoying that, so I'm glad to hear that, we're getting positive feedback on that, because we
Yeah.
like to tell the stories anyway.
I mean, more feedback is welcome. So please
Yeah.
let us know. But from what I've heard so far, it makes people feel like they're hanging out with us as well.
Awesome,
So it's
man.
not like they just been talked to or lectured at or whatever. So which is great. That's what we want.
That's what we wanted, man. We wanted to make it seem like it's just a living room conversation, and it is.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that's coming across.
Yeah.
Let's introduce this week's topic, man. What are we talking about?
Yeah, this week we're talking about success. So, which is interesting because even though we just had a tangent, as you can see, the definition of success for me right now is, I don't have a deadline.
Yeah.
And Mark's success, he's enjoying being able to live the lifestyle he wants.
I love it.
yeah.
And I think we're gonna get into it a little bit more, but it's wild how success is different to everybody.
Mm.
But I think also culturally, though, that there's some similarities where people think this is the meaning of success, this is the direction that you're supposed to be headed.
Yeah.
And right now I have some sort of idea in my head, and I'm sure you have some sort of idea in your head. I wonder how much those ideas differ, not just between the two of us, but between lots of different people, where everybody is chasing this magical realm of success, but that realm is completely different for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I have observed that as well. And like when I lived in Newfoundland, what my idea of success looked like was completely different from what success looks like in Vancouver.
It changed for you.
It changed, yeah.
Interesting.
And that's within the same country, technically within the same culture. But yeah, it was a complete difference.
How did it change for you?
Well, in Newfoundland, I could have bought my truck, have my house, mortgage, whatever.
F-150, baby.
Yeah, finally have a snowblower, have my barbecue.
That is actually success.
Now, now you see what I'm saying. But in Vancouver, that's not really like, that's not really success there. Because first of all, the houses there don't look the same.
Yep.
You can't really get a space like that in Vancouver. So
Yeah,
which means
not for
yeah.
not for the same price anyway.
No, exactly. So your idea of success here, I don't know, like you have your condo, like really nice area. Um, you are able to have a lifestyle where you can go hiking every weekend. You can enjoy the beauty of Vancouver. You know, that's success in Vancouver, not the yeah, not the way your home is set up.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it is kind of different, and it's different not just like from coast to coast, but even in different parts of the country. I noticed there's different uniforms that are almost tokens of I've made it. I remember when did a work term in Fort McMurray, for example, the trucks were a really big thing.
Yep.
Like having a big truck, lifted, of course, massive tires on it. That's how you know somebody is like killing it in the oil sands. And I guess some of that culture actually went back to Newfoundland because a lot of Newfoundlanders ended up going to Fort McMurray for work. But then you come here and then just like on a vehicle front, for example, showing that you made it is now like Teslas, for example. Or
Even
something like
Tesla there, like every Uber is Tesla here.
You know?
If you have a Tesla, you will probably be happy that you have it, but there's like
It's not that special.
There's a Tesla every 10 seconds.
But it seems like a rite of passage, you know what I mean?
If you have a Tesla in Newfoundland, or there was someone I knew who had one.
I guess that's
was
actually
only
more
one person.
successful than having a truck.
Oh,
It's gonna be more
exactly.
unique.
He had
More
one.
unique.
There was one that I saw in the entire province, and that was successful because
Yeah.
he had a Tesla. Hey, you're like, oh, cool, you have a Tesla, awesome.
Yeah,
It's like it's no different from
so
any
does
other car.
everybody else.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but every single day that I've lived here, I've seen a Tesla.
You're saying every single day. We're looking out the window right now. No, as we're recording this, pay attention.
Yeah.
Every 10 seconds, you will see
You'll
a
see one.
Tesla.
Man, they really made it out here. You could call them successful in penetrating the Vancouver market for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. Someone should look at their playbook and how they did that.
But yeah, like the point is, it's different in different places. Like what people look to as a symbol of quote unquote status, maybe you could even call it. It's different and it changes. Like a whole culture comes together to make some particular emblems appear as if like these are successful. And it's wild how that changes from like place to place, town to town. And I don't know what drives particular places to have an image of success, but it is comforting in your pursuit of success to know that it's different for different places. And it's so completely different for individuals as well on some sort of level, right?
Yeah, it's success is so dynamic because you mentioned it changes places by places, it changes by individual, it changes by time as well. What you consider success this year, next year might be a complete failure. Like I remember growing up when I was young, being successful is you dressing up in suits and going to your 9 to 5.
Yeah.
That was successful. That was like you've made it in life. Now success looks more like working,
Being more comfortable.
Yeah, working from home in
Yeah.
hoodies, like which is wild. That's not what my childhood self wanted.
So that's interesting. Do you think it changed because of the pandemic, or did it change when you moved country?
It changed due to technology, the nature of the society, because, dude, what I do as my main job right now is what I was doing when I was 17. That is wild, and I didn't think that was a feasible career at the time.
Yep.
But if you really think about it, the technology, that was a sign that, oh, this is the future. If you want to know how the rest of us are going to be living in the next 30 years, go look at what the kids are doing, the late teenagers. That is the future.
That's the next generation.
Listen to the kids, bro.
Listen to how the kids are making it.
It is true.
Yeah, I mean, the kids right now, they're killing it on content.
Yeah, and the same thing. Now TikTok, being huge on TikTok is a thing.
It's a
I remember
measure of
when there were
success.
like people being successful in Vine. You get laughed at. YouTube in 2009, I had a YouTube account that I was doing religious. We talked about that before.
Yeah.
That was like, people were looking at me like I was wasting my time, and I thought I was wasting my time, but I didn't care. I was interested in it. And now YouTube is like a huge career for a lot of people. Imagine if I stuck with it then.
Yeah. And yeah, that's a changing nature, man. It can affect the direction in which you choose to go because of like what the status quo is at that particular time. Like you said, maybe at the time when YouTube was popping up, your idea of success was getting dressed up in a suit, going to that 9 to 5. It's very hard for you to stick to this other avenue that you want to go down when it seems that everybody is praising people who are living this other idea of success in a way. It's hard to stick to your guns and go down this other path when you know, like, these people over here, they're getting the status and respect when they do this.
Yeah.
This seems promising. It's interesting to me, but like, how do you stick with that when this is such a prevalent idea?
Yeah, it takes a lot of knowing there's so many factors, like there's so many things to unpack there. One is knowing yourself. You just have to know yourself and be comfortable in yourself.
Yeah.
Like what would make me happy, what would not make me happy. Like I've always struggled with being accepted by any group because I moved around. I was nerdy when other people weren't. Like there's always been reasons why I never fit in. It was not good when I was younger, but the older I get, the more it's become an advantage. Because then we talked about the courage to be disliked. Yeah. That is one of the things. Like when you don't really care about the approval of people as much, it frees you up to stick to your own path. Like, okay, cool. Even if I fail, who cares? Like this podcast, even if we fail, like we don't care. We're not doing it because like podcaster is not our title. It's not what we're aiming for, but it's one more thing that we're trying to do.
Yep.
And if we cared about what people think, we would never have even started.
Yeah, it'd be tough. It'd be tough to put something out there if you're crippled by what other people are going to think about it. Of course, you want to take feedback in and you want to improve a product that you put out there, but you don't want your fear of receiving that feedback to actually stop you from doing anything at all. But there's another point that I wanted to make when you were explaining that and like thinking through that. I think looking back, it's easier to say, oh, this was clearly the thing that we were supposed to be doing. Like, let's take the idea of content creation, for example, and the same kind of story of YouTube being in 2009 and happening and popping. It's very difficult to go, I'm going to go do this regardless of what anybody thinks and stick with it really, really long term when you're not getting that positive reinforcement from society. And I think it goes beyond even just knowing yourself. I think there's like a part of us who wants to be accepted, and I like that you mentioned this, like the group acceptance. Like we almost need to be accepted by the group based on like how we are as humans. Like being accepted socially is so important to us. It's really vital to us earlier on, especially for survival. I think that's why kids are actually more susceptible to this type of thing where they need to fall in line. I think of like being in a high school or middle school or something like that. You may even do certain things that you feel like you don't really care to do or you're not that interested in doing, but because your friends at the time are really into that, you might compromise.
Peer pressure is a thing, yeah.
You compromise your idea or like what you actually think in order to fit into a group. I think the older you get, the easier it gets for you to ignore that, because you learn more and more like it doesn't actually pay off when you compromise yourself in order to achieve a quote unquote success. And I'm using like success as you being part of that social group. And something that I've been reflecting on a lot lately, because taking like a unconventional path is kind of lonely, and you don't have the same network of not support necessarily, but company going through a similar thing where you're thinking, oh, like it's not just me doing some of this. When you're doing like an unconventional path, it can feel like it is just me who's trying to do this. Maybe I'm crazy for doing this, and there's like a lot more room for self-doubt to creep in. But if you're being constantly reinforced by society that that's the direction that you're supposed to be going, I feel like it can be easier to go in that way. I think that's why certain emblems of success can actually be a hindrance to people finding out who they truly are.
Yep.
It's like a distraction almost in a way. It's like, this is what success looks like. Go chase it is essentially the call to action. And in your pursuit of that, you might figure out, I don't know that I agree with some of this, but it's hard for you to be like, you know what, I'm going to go my own way.
Yeah. Yeah. Something about like success also is there's this, I don't know if you know the story, the emperor without clothes.
Yeah.
Like there are some things that we think of as idea of success, but then when you get them, you realize how empty it is, and it's not really what you want.
Yeah.
Or you want to fit in with a group, and then you finally fit in with a group. It's like, oh, I don't really like these people.
This group wasn't even that great to begin with.
So that happens a lot, and especially with social media, where everyone has become a marketing expert, where, you know, everyone is just so good at making things look better than they actually are.
Yeah.
And like even being in Vancouver, the time I've been here, there was a time I've been to a lot of like events and things with, you know, events where it's supposed to be, you know, the most successful people in society.
Yep.
But then it sounds fun, it sounds great, the photos come out nice, but in reality, you go there and you're not having fun. No one is having fun. No one. I have more fun with my friends doing regular things.
And have you ever found yourself on a night out and there's people like in the quote unquote VIP section?
Yeah.
Have you ever observed those people?
Yep. And it's never fun. Oh, in Mexico,
Yeah.
when Pablo and I went to Mexico, we got invited into the VIP section.
Yeah.
We left.
Put me with the IPs,
We're like, no,
please.
I don't want that. It's just like pretentious. It's just like, pretentious is very subjective, by the way.
Yeah.
We all have our definitions of everything. And I didn't enjoy it. For some people, you know, looking cool, being away from the peasants, in quotes, is your definition of success. But for me, I don't know, being close to people is my definition of success. I want to be where, I want to connect with people. I don't just want to be looking at people from a distance. That's not fun.
Yeah. Well, okay. Switch gears a little bit. Success is often tied to money. How have your feelings around money changed with your changing definition of success?
My definition of success, I don't know if I'm just a weird person, has never been tied to money.
Yep.
Like, my definition of success has always been impact.
Yep.
Like, I just want to do things that makes a difference in other people's lives. That's just how I've been since I was a child.
Yep.
And any money I had, I used to just save, and I never spent money, so I didn't really care too much.
Yep.
But of course, the older I get, the more I noticed myself, I was stopping myself from getting money because I kept saying I don't care about money. Then I realized, wait, in order to have impact, you do need to have money. Money,
it enables that.
Yeah, money enables that. Money is a tool. Money, the resources. So then my relationship with money became better. So now I like money, but for the purpose of enabling me to have impact.
So it's still, it's kind of tied to your definition of success, but it's not the end all. It's not the definition of success.
Yeah, exactly.
It would enable your definition of success.
Yeah, now it is part of my definition of success now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the end goal is still impact, but I know money comes along the journey now. What about you?
So mine changed. So you said, from a young age, you knew that it wasn't that important at the end of the day. And now you see it as a tool. For me, like, I've reached there now. But before, when I was younger, that wasn't the case. I always made decisions thinking like, okay, this is most likely going to afford me money. And then because I would have money, I would be able to do everything else that I want to do. But it very much was like figures related. It's like, oh, if you reach this number before you're this age, it means you're being successful, and all of these types of like metrics. But then it took me actually moving away, going through university, going through an entrepreneurship journey, working for startups, trying to climb the corporate ladder before I realized that there's other things that I value more than that, and certain things that I wouldn't compromise for it. And therefore, its importance in my list of things that are important has steadily been dropping. Now I index towards other things that are actually more meaningful to me. I relate to the one about impact. like impact is definitely one of my values. I realized it's even the reason why we even started this podcast is like to try and have an impact, have a positive effect on the world around us. But aside from that, like that's what I want to impress upon the world. But what I want for myself, like the selfish interest that I have, is freedom. And so that's where money kind of ties into me, because there's like I have a bill total that reaches a certain number, right?
Yeah.
And so having more than that is essential to me feeling free. But I realized like a lot of the decisions that I'm making recently index towards freedom in order to do the things that I want to do. Some of those may have impact. Some of those may be me just enjoying being alive on this planet. Some of those just index towards me being able to have relationships with the people around me. But the money part being a core part of that story of success is diminishing daily, which is really interesting. Like I don't know when this switch happened specifically, but over time I've noticed it like just constantly go down in ranking of like the factors that I consider before making a decision.
The irony, though, is I've noticed with everyone that I know that have money, the less you care about it like that, the more you start, optimizing for other things, the more the money grows.
It comes your way.
It's actually so weird.
Yeah.
Money wants to be chased. Money wants to be, I guess, it wants you to woo it, I guess, but you don't want to like chase it.
It needs to be attracted.
Yeah, it needs to be attracted, but not like chased.
I don't know if it was in a book or maybe like an interview or something like that, but somebody was talking about money and going after it. They were like, when you're chasing something, what does that mean? It means that thing is trying to get away from you.
Yeah.
So if you're chasing money, that means money is trying to get away from you. Why not be a magnet for money? And I think some of the ways that you can find to do that are just offering value. I think something that's easily forgotten in this very made-up world that we have with like the money and the units and blah, 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 is you get that in exchange for value that you provide, right? So if you optimize for value, it should take care of itself. The bigger impact you have, like you mentioned before, the more value you're delivering to other people, the more it's going to be traded back to you in the form of quote unquote money or capital that you can then deploy to have even more impact. So yeah, important, don't get me wrong. It's an important thing. It's how we've built the society that we live in, but it's not the end all be all. It's like, it's a symptom of your success, not necessarily the success itself.
Yeah. That's an excellent point. And it took me a while to learn that one. I mean, when I was chasing money, like I said, I would just create all these stupid ideas that I think would work.
Yeah.
Nothing worked. Then when I actually kind of gave up, I was just like, I would just go back to what I know how to do, which is I just want to solve problems. And the weirdest thing happened where I helped someone cut their hair and then they paid me.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, you don't have to. Just pay me, like it's nothing to me. And he explained to me like he doesn't know how to and how much time I saved him and everything. I was like, okay, that is very interesting. Like someone would pay, but that didn't stick to my brain until I was creating Notion templates as well. And I made them free. And then I looked into my email. I saw that a bunch of people paid me like $5 for a free thing. Yeah. And I was like, why? Then I actually emailed them. I was like, why? And then he explained to me like, oh, he's an architect and it would have taken him this amount of time to do this. And I just saved him so much. I was like, oh, wow. Money is like, you make money when you are valuable to people. And if you really want to make money, be valuable to people who have money as well. Like you could do the exact same thing that you do for someone and do it for a millionaire or a billionaire, and then they pay you so much more. You didn't do anything different. It's just where the value is. So if you really want to chase money, yeah, that's what I've learned anyway.
I think that also ties into impact. And the reason I say that is
indirect,
because, like, yeah, and it's like indirect. You're having a bigger impact indirectly because that person X. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about millionaires, whoever is listening, but that person is likely a millionaire because they had a lot of impact. And if you're having a big impact on someone who has a lot of impact, that impact is multiplied, which hence that value difference. Like if you help one person, and maybe they're not having as much impact on the world, they can only do so much in exchange for you. And by do so much, I mean pay you X amount. But if you do it for somebody who's having bigger impact and they're like you're having a big impact on them, they're likely to reward that even further than someone like that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't work with people who don't have a ton of money. You can have a lot of impact still doing that. But I think it's important to mention what you were talking about, which is if you have a choice of where you're going to deliver your services with limited amount of time, index more towards that bigger impact.
Yeah, it goes back to what we said earlier on about, identifying your own success. Even for me right now, if I want to make like a big payday, I'll go work for like one of the FANGs, like, Facebook, Twitter, all these companies. However, that's not the game I'm playing. We've already talked about what my game is. If we haven't, maybe I'm sure it will come up eventually.
Yeah.
But for me, that's not success for me, at least not today.
Yeah.
Whereas for someone else, that is success. They want to have that on their resume, so they can play the games that would lead them to that. So same thing, if you care about making so much money, go work for a billionaire. If you care about having success in other ways, maybe moral success or ethical success or whatever, you can go volunteer. That's fine as well. I don't think there's anything wrong with any of those approach.
Okay, and so moving on a little bit more from like the money side of things. Another common definition of success is, how happy are you? So how happy are you, Ola?
Right now, very happy because last few years I was listening to this song by Sam Cooke, Little Light.
Okay,
This light shine. I can't remember the exact name now, but it's like little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine.
Oh yeah.
And I started thinking about that. What are my lights? My gifts. Am I using them? And I think that's success for me. The more I use all of my natural gifts, the more successful I feel.
I like that.
And so to answer your question, do I feel like I'm using my natural gifts right now? Yes. Am I capitalizing on it fully? Not necessarily, but I feel like...
Not yet.
Not yet. But I feel like I am using them in a way that is sustainable. Like I'm not burning myself out. I'm not chasing things that are not mine. I'm not listening to outside voices. I am doing exactly what I want to do with my abilities. And it feels good. What about you?
I like that. Honestly, not that much to add because I resonate very fully with that. Yeah, I feel happy usually I notice myself with like different moments of contentness. Even though I'm on a journey that's kind of like turbulent, for lack of a better term, there's like lots of swings.
Right.
There's big wins and big losses all the time that like sway me back and forth. So like if you do a temperature check at a particular moment in time, I might be like, no, like I'm not having a good time. But I realize that now I'm indexing more towards having problems of my choosing. And I think that was important for my happiness. Like I don't want a problem-less life. I just want to have more control over the problems that I have in my life.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm getting to a point where that's true. And that's actually making me a happier person, which is really, it's kind of interesting. Like I lost stability, which is something that I thought was really, really important to me.
Right.
But what I gained in its place is like a more consistent contentedness. Just like thinking, you know what, today I'm going to be doing exactly what I want to be doing. Like I feel the freedom that is valuable to me. And I'm spending time with people that I want to spend time with. These are the main things that I wanted to do, and I'm having the impact that I'm hoping to have. These are the things that are important to me, and so I feel like I'm getting happier every day because I'm able to like work on that on the daily.
So you have a more well-rounded life now,
Yep.
which So in a way, you are letting all your light shine as well.
Yeah, I mean, trying to, anyways.
Yeah.
It's a process for sure, like you were mentioning. It's like you don't feel like you're quite there yet, but that I'm gonna reference the book episode again.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
I feel like I'm not all the way there yet, which is when I'm focused on the gap. But when I focus on the gain and think about like the journey so far and where we've come, and all the choices that I've been making recently, like I feel like, okay, we're definitely on the path, which gives me happiness. I think something else too that gives me happiness personally, and I'm interested to hear your perspective on this, is potential. I think I'm a sucker for potential. I love the potential of things.
Yeah.
Like when I know, okay, this thing can go in a million different directions, that to me is almost more important than knowing we're going to go in this one direction for sure.
Yep.
And so, like, it feels like my life is now more geared towards potential rather than like a particular line for success or like a particular direction for success.
That's 100% me all the time. I like being a beginner, trying new things. Once I master something, I get bored. I don't like it. I don't like the feeling of being an expert. I feel more comfortable when I have so many questions, when I'm like, yeah, I feel like a kid. And you mentioned the potential. You mentioned before that optionality is something that you optimize for.
Yeah.
And potential, yeah, both of those things are things that I also look out for. I'm learning to love the gap though. I only learned about the term when you mentioned books, but I've been thinking about it since our last episode. Like, I look back at some of my happiest days, and it's when I was struggling, like, to even know what I wanted to do. And I'm just like, oh, there are so many moments where I could have slowed down more instead of trying to like skip that and enjoyed it. And that's what I'm trying to do now. Like,
so when you were in the moment, did you feel happy?
Oh no, not at all. I thought I was miserable.
It's interesting. So like when after you've
Yeah.
gone through it and you've thought about it and like you're reflecting, you feel different about it.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a way, and the reason I'm asking you this specifically is because I go through the same thing. When I'm in it, I'm like, this is kind of hot. I don't like it. After the fact, I'm like, so glad I went through that. It taught me so much. How can we get to a point where you realize you're in a similar situation again, and you realize that later you're going to look back on this, and so in the moment, you're in control. You're not feeling dismayed in a way. You realize what's happening, and you're able to maximize that time for as much as possible. Like, what do you think we can do about that?
This book that I read, The Power of Now, when I read it, I knew the concept, but it didn't make sense to me. But it was just at the back of my mind, like I just didn't get it until later on when I finally got. I was like, oh, that's what the book was trying to tell me. It's when you're in the now, everything is great. In those moments, I was worried about how am I going to pay my rent, how am I going to do this, how am I going to do that. But there wasn't like a landlord shouting outside of my door. There wasn't like things would work out.
Yeah.
Like at every single moment, things were fine. It was my worries of
The future.
what's going to come next that was affecting me. So now I'm learning to live in the now more. Like, okay, I know these are the things I need to do, but right now, what's the reality? I have food, I have this, I have my rent paid, I have all that paid. Everything is great. So relax. Like, we're good.
I love that you brought that up. I was thinking about that actually the other day at the beach, because you know how like housing is so expensive here and all this, like buying whatever. And we were just sitting on the beach just talking about how expensive life is in Vancouver. If you were to try to get an apartment in downtown, it would be over $1 million, blah, 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 and all of this. And then we shifted gears a little bit, but we're at the beach though, and it's beautiful weather, and we're having a great time, like watching the sunset right now. Sure, you could have an apartment in downtown Vancouver, but you would still be at this beach, probably watching the sunset. Like there's no difference between those two situations, really, if you think about it from like right now.
Yeah.
So I fully agree. Like being able to focus on the present is such a powerful tool, and is almost, to bring it back to the full core topic that we're talking about, it's a way to be successful in the moment. It's like look around you right now, is there actually something seriously wrong, or are you worried about either something that happened in the past or something that might happen in the future, and you're taking yourself out of the moment, and that's actually what your feeling is about, but not necessarily about your current condition?
When I go to Nigeria, or the last time I went to Nigeria was my reminder of true happiness. Like you go to places and you see people that they're objectively, I guess, objectively, I would just go with that. Objectively think they are not supposed to be happy, but they're happier than you. They have no worry.
Yep.
You know, you have, like, some will have, I don't know, debtors chasing them. They're enjoying it. It's like a comedy to them. You know what I mean? It's almost like, it made me realize you can just define whatever you want your life to be. Like, oh, my life is a comedy, nothing is going right. Like, then it's fun. Instead of being scary,
Yeah.
it's like, it's the story we tell ourselves. We mentioned that a few times now in past episodes. It's story. Everything is all about the stories we tell ourselves. If you see your life as comedy, like in the past year, there's been so many wild things that has happened that are just funny. Initially, they were like, "Why me?" or "Why is this happening?" But once you see the comedic side of things, you enjoy it. It's like, this is great. I get a front row seat. I'm the director as well. What? This is great. So yeah, you can. That's how you can enjoy the moment.
And stay in it.
With the story you tell yourself about the moment.
Yeah, I mean, fully agreed. I want to switch gears again.
Yeah.
So the last subtopic in a way, relationships. To me, they're a really big part of what defines happiness. I don't know. I'm sure it is for a lot of people as well, but for some people it might not be. I haven't really met those people. I think in any case, like, the way you manage your relationships, the relationships in your life really change your perspective on your life as well, which actually makes you feel more or less successful. I don't know that people always put those two one-to-one, but I'm trying to be more mindful of it. I think having people in my life that I admire, that, you know, we're working together on something that I feel I can be helpful to, and they can be helpful to me, that, like, having a strong network of close people like that has started to also rank up quite a bit in my list of what I consider are elements of success. Before, I maybe would not have ranked it as high. Grew up an only child, and like, family was definitely important to me, but probably not as important as people who had like siblings and like a big family around them all the time. I had just like my immediate family that I really cared about, super close. But then beyond that, I was like, you know, like, what does this all really mean? But then as time went on, and as I've experienced more and more things, the more I realized, like, the relationships that you have around you is like an integral part of what community is. And community is becoming more and more important to me. And being able to have a positive impact on the community around me is becoming more and more important to me. So for me, that's like a new, more defined element of success, and something that I'm also indexing towards, which I think having some of these other things in check allows for you to do. Like, if you're not necessarily worried about your rent that particular month, you're not worried about whether or not you're going to be able to pay your bills or eat that day, and then you also are feeling content with your presence, you're able to show up for your relationships a lot more, and then everything becomes like a compounding factor.
Right.
Because you have such strong relationships, now it's going to affect your quote unquote like financial success, and that's also going to affect like a different part of like maybe the impact that you're able to have, and that affects the freedom you're able to have. Like, everything kind of ties into each other. And starting on the right foot with something, like, you could start maybe with just being more present and being more there for people. You'll notice all the other elements that you consider useful for your definition of success will also improve.
You are 100% right. I didn't realize the importance of community and, you know, relationships for success until last year. I had always been like a lone wolf. I did my own thing, you know, one man squad. Then last year, with the changes and everything, I, you know, started reaching out to more people, started accepting people reaching out more as well. Where in the past, like, everything had to be on my own terms, you know, like when I want to do it. Like when you reached out, like, oh, let's start a podcast, in the past I'd be like, oh, if this was not part of my plans for like next 6 months, I don't think so. But I started thinking like, no, like, there's never a right time to do what someone else wants you to do. Like before, if like friends want to hang out, it always has to be when I'm in the mood or there's an event. And I became more open in general to stuff like that. And then I noticed I was going to all these cities last year, and last minute's notice, who's in this city? And then I know someone, and then they show you around, and you have a great time. That was another moment where I felt successful, because I was like, oh wow, like I didn't think I knew anyone here, and this person, I haven't talked to them in like 10 years, and we're still so solid, and it's just great because there's a lot of little decisions that you made along the way that maintained that friendship.
That enabled that
situation.
situation in a way.
Enabled that. It could have been money, it could have been just how you doing on a day that the person needed it.
Yeah.
Lord knows.
Yeah.
there's so many little wins.
Advice that you gave somebody.
Oh, that's my favorite one. When someone comes to you like, oh, do you remember you did this? I was like, I don't remember.
But you had an impact on somebody that lasts like longer than your memory of it.
Yeah.
I think that's successful as well. Is like being able to help somebody along their way. I think it's a huge indicator of success, or like at least our definition of success. It's like, man, somebody took what you had to say and it changed their life for the better. Like what else could you possibly want out of this?
Oh, there's a great example of this. There was a time I used to write a lot, then I stopped because I wasn't getting feedback. Except one person, Pablo. I promise I will write more for Pablo. But he's the only one that used to give me feedback. No one else. Like, people like, maybe it's just me. Maybe I don't take a lot of, stock into when people like or comment and stuff. I want people to actually message. That's when I count. But yeah, I was just not motivated to publish anything. I was keeping it to myself. So there was a time on Instagram, then I asked like, hey, I'm thinking of this idea of this thing. Should I publish it? And then there was so many comments. People were like, yes, please. Yeah. Then I was like, oh, just curious, why? And then this girl wrote this long message about how something I wrote helped her get out of debt.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? She was like, yeah, she paid like 30 grand or something because she followed something I wrote. And I was so shocked. And that inspired me again. I still haven't been publishing, but then I started launching other projects that I was doing. And when we started this, I mentioned as long as one person gets value out of what we're saying, it's good for me. And that's
having some success,
that's what I started thinking of.
Yeah. No, I resonate with that story because I think I actually mentioned it in a previous episode, or I think content creation episode. The reason I wanted to start this podcast with you is because I had gotten feedback from content I was publishing on YouTube. But at the time, it was the same thing. I was like seeing some likes here and there, not many people commenting, not a whole lot of like engagement on it. But then when I stopped and I would go into like a different town or like reconnect with a friend of mine, like, what happened to those videos I used to post? Like I watched them and like I thought they were really insightful, and I want to like, what else are you thinking about? Like, why aren't you sharing more? And then you realize, okay, I was actually having more impact than I thought I was having at the time. And so I want to try this new format of the podcast, which I think is going really well as well. And we're getting like a lot of positive feedback, and we're having that impact that we were hoping to have. But those moments when I got that kind of feedback, it just like lifted me up. It gave me so much inspiration, even though it's got nothing to do with some of the other elements of success that we were talking about before. But understanding that you are able to like reach someone in that way, or like make them think about a particular thing in a different way, is a super powerful idea, and something that I think us as a society need to like just index more towards. I don't know if I'm like, if I should be pointing society in a particular direction, but I think only positivity can come from being able to reach people and share your message, share your perspective, and take in other people's perspectives as well.
Yeah, that's one of my key values, or I don't want to say mantra, but like things I try to live by, like each one teach one.
Yeah.
Like whatever I know, I have to like teach someone else, and
Pay it
then
forward.
I'm not afraid to ask as well. And I've noticed that as well. The more I'm willing to teach, the more I'm willing to like reach out to anyone for any advice, because it's almost like you expect it. You know, if you're doing it, you almost, that part of your brain opens up to just being willing,
Yeah.
and it just makes things easier. You don't have to figure out everything on your own. And I don't know, I think we're all supposed to be here. That's what I think anyways. We're supposed to be here to be of service to one another. And I like things flowing. Like when my ideas are flowing, I get more. Because when you give out your ideas, when you're teaching someone, you get clarification. You know, you become smarter in the moment of teaching someone. Because as you explain something, you're like, maybe that logic doesn't make sense. Maybe let me go revisit that. You know, you get
Also,
smart.
if you have to explain something in really long form, you're like, maybe I don't have a full understanding
Exactly.
of this.
you know, it makes you smarter.
Yep.
And even same as resources, you know, when as long as you're not wasting money, but if you get money and you invest it in something, it grows. Like everything in life is energy. The more you let energy flow, the more it just comes back
And
in
better
full
for
force.
everyone.
It's better for everyone.
Nobody wins by hoarding. So
No.
share your successes, which is I think,
Connections, everything.
Yeah.
That's another thing as well. People always think, oh, I don't want people to share my connection. No. Do you know something, a funny thing that I realized a while back was the more you connect your connections to each other, the more their connections to you become stronger.
will improve.
Because if you're too busy and you're doing your thing, the more those people hang out together, you're still top of mind.
Yeah.
So that
'Cause
friendship
you enable
is
that.
alive. Yeah.
You enable that.
So that friendship
value.
is alive.
Yeah.
So like when Pablo hasn't, for example, Pablo hasn't been here for like, I don't know, 9 months now.
Yeah.
But he introduced us. His name comes up quite a lot.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's like almost like an investment he had there in the friendship.
Yeah. That's true, man. Connect people, share your successes, which is I think a good note for us to end on.
Yeah. I'm sure the topic of success will come up in other shapes and form at some point. But yeah.
What are your definitions of success? We'd actually love to hear that as well. And if that's changed, share that with us. I'd be really curious to know how different experiences in your life shape the way you feel about what success is. I'm very curious in other people's perspectives. This is something that I'm continuing to learn, something Ola is continuing to learn, and I'm sure things will shift again in the future as we, go through our own development and our own journeys. But this is where we're at this moment in time, and I'm very curious to hear where other people are in how they view this topic as well.
Yes, same. Please let us know. Every part of this that we talked about, whatever resonated with you, whatever you have an opinion on, let us know as well, and maybe we'll have you on.
Let's do it. All right, that was Foreign Gems. I'm Mac.
I am Ola.
And we'll see you in the next one.
Peace.